even if, assuming if, and I doubt the Israeli claims that Hamas is firing from a shelter that is a refuge for innocent civilians who are running away from the barbaric bombardment of Gaza by Israel. Even if they did that, there is no law that allows Israel to target these civilian centers. And it's very simple. You cannot target a civilian population or center, even if people fired at you from there.
Joining me now for more about this ongoing deadly conflict in the Middle East, James Zogby, founder and president of the Arab American Institute, and Haaretz columnist Ari Shavit in Tel Aviv. Thank you both. Ari, first to you, because you're there in the conflict zone and you've heard the charges and countercharges back and forth. You've written memorably that this really is a failure of both sides, of leadership and leadership by the United States, that John Kerry did not have a plan B, as you put it, for the failure of what you thought was a naive approach to having a comprehensive solution all at one time. Where do we go from here, though?
Well, let me first of all say that I admired Secretary Kerry's ideals, determination, moral commitment, but I think the concept was unrealistic. And once the peace process failed, America left a vacuum in the Middle East, and within this vacuum, these terrible events of the last month has happened. I think that the target, the end of this horrible, horrible situation, which is so horrific, and first of all, let me say how much my heart goes out to the victims, to the people, to the children and women who are victims of this terrible tragedy. But we must distinguish between the population of Gaza, which I have such deep sympathy and empathy for, and Hamas, which is an evil organization, and we must call a spade a spade. Hamas is a fascist organization oppressing women, oppressing Christians, oppressing gays, that attacked Israel for no good reason. Rather than turn Gaza into a Palestinian Singapore, it insisted in turning it into a fanatical entity, attacking Israel for a decade. And when Israel tried to prevent escalation in recent weeks, it kept on attacking. And what is worse than all, we have to understand that what happens now, and this terrible tragedy of today, is exactly what Hamas wants to do. Unlike other armies that do some brutal things, Hamas has two strategic goals in this campaign. One is to kill innocent Israelis, and the other is to have Palestinian civilians killed. This is different than any other entity or army, and their goal is really to have their own population killed by Israelis. That's their strategy, and sadly, it's working. So where should we go when this?
I just want to give Jim Zogby a chance.
When we'll have a ceasefire at last, I think the goal should be double goal. On the one hand, the Gaza Strip must be demilitarized. In a sense, we have to go for the Syrian concept. On the other hand, I think we have to be much more generous with the civilian population. The people of Gaza must have a life, and they must have a future. The deal is a very clear one. No rockets, no military ability, but a life and as much prosperity as possible for the people of Gaza, who are really now the victims of this terrible tragedy unfolding.
Jim Zogby, there's a lot there. I mean, what Ari is saying is that they have to demilitarize this zone. How do you demilitarize this zone? How do you get at the tunnels? How do you get at the weapons that Israel at least claims have been hidden in some population centers?
There is a paternity issue here. How did this all begin? Israel has a narrative that it evacuated the Gaza Strip and freed the people and ended the occupation. That's simply not true. Even in the best of times before, during the early Oslo period, Gaza was closed. There were no jobs. 80% youth unemployment for at least the 15 years that I was measuring it. 15 years of 80% unemployment means that the young men in Hamas who are fighting today never had a job, no prospect of a job, no hope, no family.
I don't think Ari would disagree with that. But
Hamas is a creature of this desperation and anger.
Understood.
And then when the blockade began, the anger grew even more. Now, I hold no court for Hamas. I agree with Ari. I oppose their tactics, and I'm vigorously opposed to their ideology. But they are a creature of the desperation and anger created by the occupation. Understand that in the few weeks preceding this war, 600 of their leaders were arrested, most of them held on administrative detention with no charge, no trial. Hamas was facing an existential threat. Israel provoked Hamas. Hamas fell into the trap, and now Israel has fallen into Hamas's trap, and the innocent people are dying. But for one side to pretend that it's all white and the other side is all evil simply doesn't hold up. This is a problem where Israel is at fault. Hamas certainly is at fault. The people of Gaza are paying the bitter price, but Israel has to make the first move because it is the occupying power.
Well, let me ask you both, and we don't have a whole lot of time. Ari, briefly, Israelis seem to support what the government is doing. Is there a ceasefire option right now?
It's a difficult one, but let me state the following. I went into the shelter twice today. Hamas is targeting central Israel, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. What would have happened? What would have happened if Al-Qaeda has taken over Guantanamo and would have shot missiles first at Miami Beach, then at Charleston, then at Atlantic City, then in Washington and New York? Even if there would not have been civilian casualties, if America's sovereignty would have been violated day after day, for 2.5 weeks in such an extreme way, is there anyone who has any doubt how a peaceful president like President Obama would have reacted? Ari, we know how America reacted. How America reacted with using drones in Afghanistan and Yemen and other places. This is a situation. I'm sorry. This is a situation where the Israeli democracy has pulled out of Gaza, dismantled settlements. It did what the international community, and people like me asked the government to do, and the result is these hostilities and these atrocious attacks, of which the Palestinian people become a victim of. So this has to be stated. This has to be dealt with. At the end of the day, the solution for Gaza is to free it from Hamas. And at short term, a ceasefire, long term, freeing the people of the Palestinian people from Hamas rule.
You can occupy the land, Ari, but you don't occupy the time. Give me a break here. Look, if the United States were occupying Cuba completely, and missiles were being fired at America, the answer is negotiate an end to the occupation of Cuba. We don't occupy Cuba, but Israel does occupy the entire West Bank and occupies all access and egress from Gaza. It's an open-air prison camp. What has to happen for a ceasefire to work is hope has to be given to the people. I saw a piece from a rabbi today saying the best weapon against Hamas is hope to the Palestinian people. If there is coupled with this, if coupled with a ceasefire is an opening of the borders, an opening of the port, an opening of the ability to fish in the sea, an opportunity to rebuild the economy, Hamas will dry up. They only are fueled by the anger and the desperation.
I support
and we're going to have to leave it.
Unfortunately, we've given it another round. We'll have another one yet, unless we end the despair.
Ari Shavit, thank you so much. Jim Zogby,
we need a two-state solution.
I think the two of you agree on a two-state solution and on access to Gaza, and we'll have to see whether John Kerry and others can produce that. Thank you for being with us.
Inshallah, as they say.
Inshallah. Ari Shavit, thank you from Tel Aviv. Jim Zogby here in Washington.